Right. Okay. So we're definitely live. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome everyone to the. I'll just pretend this never happened. So, uh, welcome
Alex,
to the Art Agents 2. We have the mighty Michael Hampton with us today. And Michael, welcome. How are you?
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a fan of your work and your books, so it's an honor to join you today.
Oh, you tripped me up there, Michael. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. Well, I'm a fan of your book too. And
Awesome.
the proof's in the pudding, right there. There it is. And it's well read too. And so, yeah, what this is all about for everyone that's just tuning in for the first time, it's about learning how to be your own agent, how to take your art and your style and everything and learn from us with our limited wisdom. We have wisdom, but it's limited because we are not a huge tribe. We have just our own stories to tell. So we're going to hear Michael's stories today, and you can ask questions. And it's all about how did one person manage to take a pencil, a piece of paper, and end up with a career. And of course, there's many pitfalls. And I was talking to Michael earlier about in our day, you walked out into the street, looked up at the sky, and went, "What's next?" Okay. And we also had that discussion too, which I think is important here, Michael, is that it seems even harder now, even though we have more, because we sort of see a lot of fake success or maybe just success, and it seems to be overwhelming. Why don't we have this same success? When really what it is that even in our day, when you were standing looking at the sky, there were successful artists out there, but they were so far apart that when you
Mhm.
met one, you went, "Oh, wow, that's amazing." And now we see them all at once and we go, "Why aren't we one?" And
Right.
it is just a small pool. And so you need to work hard at it. And it's the
Right.
absolute difference between get rich quick and be an artist quick is that it takes time. So everyone should just relax and go, this is going to take time. Now, subscribe below. I'll just get that out of the way for Michael, Rachel, Melanie, myself for further stuff. And please subscribe to this channel because we want to grow the agency of everyone so that everyone can come in every week and feel they're part of something and they're not alone in that idea. Now, I'm from Ireland. I forgot to say, Michael, have you got a greeting in your part of the world that people use commonly? I'm going to use mine. I'll give you a start. So I'm from Ireland. So Céad Míle Fáilte. That means 100,000 welcomes to anyone that is in Ireland. Hello, everyone. And the Virginians at the bottom of the screen have also got a welcome from the southern part of America. If you'd like to say hello there, Rachel and
hi
Melanie.
friends. What up?
Shut up. Come on, that's not Virginian.
Howdy.
Howdy, thank you. Michael, is there anything from your part of the world? Any greeting?
It's raised in Southern California, so we mostly just talk about the freeways and the traffic. So no real greeting other than, that common shared language to avoid,
Yeah, that's not bad. How about that freeway traffic? And Michael, I've been on that freeway traffic. I know exactly what you're talking about. I come
Oh
in the,
yeah, it's I,
I didn't know
I
what.
I'm hesitant to calculate how much of my life I've spent in traffic living in
Yeah.
Southern California. It's got
Oh
to be at
Lord.
least like 6 months.
It probably is. When I first saw that endless tail of lights
Hmm.
going for forever. So
Yeah.
I'm used to traffic, of course, but I usually just see a little bit of it, and you can sort of see up ahead that
Hmm.
it's a bit clear.
Hmm.
Coming into LA, what the hell? And San
Yeah,
Francisco too. San Francisco was weird too. Yeah.
it's
What are we
brutal.
talking
It's
about?
only getting worse. It's pretty crazy.
Is it? So
Yeah.
we're so to start it off, Michael, where are you? Oh, I've got the echo. So let me see where that is. I'll close this down. Let me just cancel just one thing. We've had terrible problems this morning, guys, and I don't want to close that down. I think the echo's gone now. Yes, so Michael, where in the world are you?
I live now on the Central Coast, so it's halfway between LA and San Francisco. And I moved
Okay.
here about a year and a half ago after, 40 plus years in the same 10 to 15 mile radius in Southern California.
Oh yeah. And so like it's a beautiful part of the world. I got the Amtrak train down
Right.
to San Diego. I've also
Hmm.
been up in San Francisco too. But I thought that was wonderful. The Amtrak train was absolutely beautiful. So
Right.
you're living in this beautiful place. Michael? Is that a born and bred situation?
Like right now, I live in Morro Bay or just south of it. And my family would take vacations up here when I was a kid, all the time to get away, and it always stuck with me. Just for the scenery, where else can you be next to the mountains and the beach simultaneously? And when I moved up here, I lived in a place where in my backyard there was zebra, and in my front yard, about 3 blocks away, there were seals and marine life. So it's this odd and beautiful and strangely surreal location.
Yeah.
Yeah, in California.
Well, Michael, I'm going to have to stop you right there. There was zebra in your backyard. Did
Yeah.
they escape from the zoo? What? How is
So
there
I
zebra?
lived when I moved up here. I lived in a town called San Simeon, and it's famous because it hosts Hearst Castle, and that's where William Randolph Hearst lived. And he built this
Oh,
massive mansion where he collected all of this artwork and hosted dignitaries and actors in the early 1900s, and he had his own private zoo. And when he left it, some animals escaped and then kind of populated the local area. And there's still zebra that roam the hillside and the meadow. And so where I was living backed right onto Hearst Meadow. And so you would get these migratory patterns or these zebras coming by maybe once a week. And it was awesome. Yeah.
it is awesome. And
Great change from the LA traffic I had mentioned earlier.
oh, great. Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
you found that solace. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
a term I do know. I was just talking earlier before the podcast. I often fluff my lines because America, we share the same language, but there's the minutia of differences that I sometimes stumble over. But we do say, don't we, only in America, or is it
Yeah.
only in a part of America? Is that I've heard people say only in Florida, but we do
I only
hear
heard the first one.
only in America.
Yeah.
All right, only in America.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely, there's no zebra in my backyard. We don't even have a kangaroo in the backyard.
Yeah.
Popular
Right.
belief, there's kangaroos bouncing around everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
But I did
That's
go
not
to
the
a
case,
town.
huh?
No, but I did go to a town once, and I brought my daughter and my son up there, and they were disappointed. There was no
Mm.
kangaroos, and we went to this little town on the coast. Went to the post office, and there's a kangaroo leaning on the post box like that,
That's
like a
awesome.
person, like a human, because they're really scary. They're called big reds, and they
Yeah.
stand. If you look on YouTube, they fight you. They're actually
Yeah,
boxing
that's
kangaroos.
terrifying. Yeah.
It's really big red, and I had to post a letter in that box. And on the way down, we saw them everywhere. They were hopping all around the place. There are places in Australia where the kangaroo live within the people, and they were inside people's dustbins and stuff. So at the end of the day, it's a giant rodent.
Wild.
Kangaroos
Can you
are pretty
imagine?
funny. One of my
Yeah.
favorite videos on the internet is like a kangaroo that was trying to get at a guy's dog, and the guy
Oh,
like
yeah.
walks up to it and clocks it in the face.
They
The
fight you,
kangaroo
yeah.
just squares up at him.
Yeah,
What did
they
you
do.
just
They
do?
square up. They square up. Yeah, and you can domesticate them as well. We have a zoo up here, and you can go and feed them and all. And those big reds come up to you because they've got giant pectoralis.
Yeah.
Michael will teach you all about that in his drawings, that we all own the same kind of anatomy, and they have giant pectoralis and giant biceps too. And that's the big reds. So when they come to you in a wildlife sanctuary, sort of a little bit hesitant, but they're used to people. And yeah, those guys, they'll fight you. You can talk them down. You can talk to them, say, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And you get down low, and they come down with you, and it's fine.
That's wild.
It's weird. You see it with
Yeah.
Crocodile Dundee in the movies.
Yeah.
So, when I took my son camping, there was wild dingoes. And how did this become about me? I'll make it short. But there was wild dingoes, and they say if a wild dingo, so he can kill you, a dingo ate me baby. You've all seen that movie with Meryl Streep, right? It's a true story.
Mhm.
So I said to my son, you've got to be bigger than the dingo and use your coat. I think in America you do the same thing for bears or something. And the dingo came around, just coming around the campfire like that.
Whoa.
And it was a scrawny looking thing, and I just stood up and I turned around. My son was standing like that. It was dead cute.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah. See, you have to. It's a dangerous place.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like it.
It really is. All right, that's enough about me. We're back to Michael. Now, has anyone got questions for Michael in the chat?
Not yet.
No?
We got a comment from a Des Embry.
Oh, I know Des. Hey,
Oh,
Des.
okay.
This is in Australia.
He said
He's
we'll
probably
have
got a
to.
kangaroo. He's got probably got a kangaroo story.
He says we'll have to talk about credentials when we catch up for coffee this Christmas. Whatever that
Credentials.
means. Yeah, I don't know what he
Oh,
means by
heaven.
that. I was
What's he
hoping you
mean
would
by
know.
that? Ask him what he means. Credentials. I don't know what that
Oh,
means. Because he hasn't seen my Aussie passport. I'm a citizen now, you know.
oh, okay. I don't
It
know.
could be that. It could be that.
Yeah.
So we won't get residency. All right. So now I'm going to have a look at some of Michael's work here. Like I said, I'm very familiar with Michael's book, and I would ask you, Michael, what drove you to write the book?
Hmm.
Is there a reason? Was there a moment when you go, I'm going to write a book? Or was it always, I'm going to write a book?
No, it definitely was not. I think it was a lot of things, like there's never one reason maybe why we do anything. But I think for the book it was a confluence of different factors. It was I knew early on that I really wanted to be in education, and very different from today. The gatekeeping to education was um, degrees. And in state of Southern California, to get into university, I needed a master's degree to teach. So the book was partly to help with that,
Mhm.
to have reputation, to make money, to move into that. And then I would say the other thing was early on, I had pretty serious illness that I think drove me to get a lot of things done that I wanted to do early on before, or to kind of help with the process of staying healthy, right? And so just to kind of be at home and to make a book or to work on a book was a way to kind of keep sane, but also have some extra help to maybe produce a little bit of extra income to help with bills and expenses. And then prior to that, I had only been teaching in private schools. And the quarter system, the 10-week system of private schools, I thought was kind of crushing for students. And the speed through which students were being kind of sent through these for-profit private schools was insane. And they needed something more than just 4 hours a week of meeting to get their skills marketable, which is where they would need to be in a matter of 1 or 2 years, which we all know isn't enough time. And
Yeah.
so this was prior, I mean, this is prior to a lot of how convenient now information is online. And so the book felt like a necessity. It was the outcome of curriculum development. It was the outcome of lesson planning. And so in another sense, it was just kind of an organic outcome of the work that I was trained to do in education.
That's a very familiar story, actually, Michael.
Yeah.
And you look very healthy today. Are you on the mend?
Yeah, yeah, I'm in remission. Been in remission for maybe 7 years, six,
Oh, that's
seven
great.
years.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
I think that's a thing, also a sobering thought that, we're not here for the long,
mhm,
we're not here for eternity. That's a fact.
right.
But we don't also want to be, I think anyway, is panicking about getting everything, a million things
Yeah,
done at once. And in my life, I did that in my 20s. I was rushing to get everything done. And then
mhm,
later I went, there's no need for all that panic. Take it
yeah,
slowly. And in fact, someone said to me, how do you get so much done? I said, slowly. And I think
mhm,
that's a good way to think about it. But yeah, there's another thing that's sobering. We're going to get ill. We're going to get ill,
mhm,
and then we're going to get
yeah,
better, hopefully, and then we'll get ill again. So everyone's got
yeah,
to realize that we're all human, and this is just a tough road.
yeah,
And get rich quick, get education quick. It doesn't exist. Like you said there, Michael, 10 weeks. Of
yeah,
course, it's not even scratching the surface of what you need to be a professional artist. Although you can be a fine artist right off the bat, you just
mm,
put some paint on there and get a gallery show. And I don't want to take the agency away from you there, Michael, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in that it's a very complicated world, that we don't have to take forever before we show our work. But at the same
yeah,
time, 10 weeks is a very short period. And if you come out of university and go, I'm still not as good as I expected, you can't be. 10 weeks is just the beginning of your skills. And
yeah,
I had the same thing. I worked in the private universities too. And, one of them said to me, take the kids to the beach. And I thought, hold on a
Yeah.
second, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You know, so basically they want foreign students with big money to come in, and they don't really show the college, they show the lifestyle of the college. And
Right. Yeah.
then we get these lazy kids coming in because they want to go straight to the beach. So it's
Mhm.
really bizarre. So I know exactly what you mean about those private institutions.
Yeah.
They can, I get great students in there too, but it's a mixed bag. Whereas if you go to an accredited university, all of a sudden it's the Ducks, it's the best,
Yeah.
because they had to show a portfolio, old style. Show
Yeah.
me that you're good at this, and we'll let you in, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
interesting.
agree with that. I think like the one thing that I like sharing now with students more than anything is just that it's got to be long haul, and that what I wished I had done. I mean, it's really at this point the most valuable thing I could teach anybody is just the things that I erred on, my mistakes. And it
Yes.
was for me, it's that I didn't understand how to have balance. And I think that it's going to be a marathon. You should find a way to integrate it into your life that's healthy, and that you leave room for family and for being enriched in other ways, that you don't just hunker over a sketchbook for 2 decades, or your hair will go gray and you'll lose it. But instead, you have to make peace with it, and like the inner critical voice and all of these things that I think we all deal with, right? That we're all hard on ourselves. Is all things I wish that I had been more learned at, or understood more as a younger man.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, Michael. The fact that we all think that we're different when we're not, we're all exactly the same in
Yeah.
many respects. Of course, we're individuals, but we're the same in they were asking people on their deathbed recently, what do they regret the most? And almost to a person, they said being too hard on themselves.
Hmm.
Now, if
Yeah.
we already know that, we don't have to wait to that point to say, don't be so hard on yourself. And I think that's a great relief. Once you say that to
Yeah.
yourself, don't be so hard. It sort of opens up the agency to take a breath and go, okay, I can enjoy this. Because I think when people are hard on themselves, they're not enjoying it at all. And I think we
No.
can all relate to that. And I found that too. The second I left advertising, I took a big breath and I went, wow, you mean I could actually just leave
Mm.
and do what I like? I can do this? I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Of course the phone stopped ringing. And I went, I'm really scared now. But the
Yeah.
thing was, it was the best thing I ever did. It was the best thing ever. And it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the advertising life. It just wasn't for me. And it was
Yeah.
exciting for a moment. It was exciting for a moment. And then it outplayed its moment for 10 years. 5 was plenty. So what do you think
Yeah.
of that idea, Michael, about you get to a point and you feel a switch and you wonder, should you turn it? Do you turn that switch when you feel that this is enough? Or do you probably stay around too long?
I think you have to, or else you're going to become miserable, right? And I mean, I recently did something similar to that, and leaving a full-time university job that I had been at for a good number of years and had worked most of my life to get, just real it wasn't the right fit. And so I did leave. I changed my whole life and moved, somewhere that I'd wanted to be ever since I was a kid. And so, yeah, you caught me at a strange moment where most of those things you described have been immediate and recent realities to me. And I probably should have done it sooner, to be honest. We all know, when we're not happy or in a bad spot, but we're really good at convincing ourselves to hang in there or not do a thing. Or so yeah, I think you have to, for your mental health, or just life is short, so you gotta take those opportunities, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's always a cagey subject to say that's what I would suggest to anyone, but everyone's an individual. And,
Yeah.
uh, to get the legality out of the way, I'm not a psychiatrist or a doctor, but I would
No.
say to anyone, if you feel
Yeah.
that, then start looking at it in depth and maybe
Yeah.
not do what I did, which is just burn all bridges. Adios, amigos.
Yeah.
Maybe just make plans to leave somewhere that's not a fit. Me, I'm a different kind of creature. Maybe I'm a big toddler. I just go, that's it. It's over. And I go somewhere else. and end up sitting in a tree looking at the sky again, going, what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
But for me, and this is where I will put it back on the table again, it's always been the right thing. The minute you feel it, it's the right thing. So maybe don't be like me, but be a little bit like that. Say, I'm unhappy now. Am I going to get happier?
Right.
No, you're not. You're going to get more unhappy. So let's see if you can make a way out of that. And that's what this whole thing's about. What would be the pitfalls? That phone stopped ringing. That's a pitfall. Can you take that kind of pressure? I could, because in my life, it's always been, you could drop me under a tree and say, see ya, as long as I've got a sketch pad and a pencil. But we talked about it before, who's going to shod my kids' shoes if it's not me? So once again, now, as you get older, you've got more responsibility. And that becomes once again, choose my words carefully. It's not a burden because, like you said, Michael, it's the most important thing. The most important thing is the people around you, and you've got to take care of that. You've got to take care of that. So we got to weigh it all up, haven't we? But at the same time, going back, if you're unhappy, it's a key. You've got to look into it. But I'm looking at it.
And then I think to be transparent about it too, in classroom settings, I think it's valuable to share where you're at, because it's important that people know I'm still figuring stuff out. I don't have answers for most things. It's just like everybody else, There's no, just because I've drawn longer than some people doesn't mean I know the answer to life, or that, it's these things are trial and error. And that's a good message for people to have, to know that that you're probably going to make some mistakes, and you'll figure it out. Yeah. But it's not always going to be, super easy or super obvious what should be done.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Yeah. And illness aside, I think that if we could all just say to ourselves, don't be so hard on yourself, it'll be okay. It's not a bad way to think. And if it's not okay, it's not okay. But thinking it's not going to be okay is not a healthy place to be.
Right.
We gotta be optimistic and realistic at the same time. I'm an eternal optimist. I've always been, and I think that's been my super strength. But some people would say he's just an idiot. That boy's an idiot. How can he be walking through that bomb shelter and he's still whistling a tune? But I think it's been my super strength. It always has been, and I'd like to spread it out. Mucho amor. Send it out there and say, take a little bit of that. We can learn from the Dunning-Kruger people that have no doubt about their limited skills, and here we are doubting our higher skills. Take a little bit from them, boost yourself up and say, I can do this. I can do this. It's just a matter of time. I mean, look at the skills that Michael's showing here with these gestural drawings. They're just astonishing. Look at the life in them. These two little guys here. And, it's just gorgeous. And what are they? Someone on someone's back.
Yeah. That one looks kind of fun. I like them though. These are really cool.
I love them. And you're doing these on a digital platform, Michael. It looks like it to me anyway.
Yeah, I do so much teaching that more than half of my drawing is digital now.
Yeah. And do you find it more difficult than paper and pencil?
No, I think they're the same. To me, they really feel the same at this point. And I prefer a tablet, drawing on a tablet, to a Cintiq. And I know that bothers a lot of people to have that one removed from your tabletop to your computer. But for whatever reason, I enjoy it, or it seems to work for me. So yeah, I think it's all the information is the same conceptually. So the jump from paper to moving a stylus on a pad doesn't feel different to me for whatever reason. I mean, I think of course there's a learning curve like anything else, but now it feels pretty good. It feels second nature.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. I was working on the Intuos. It's got like a big job. I won this. There's how big it is. It's huge. I won this. Do you remember there was a place? I think they got bad rap in the end. This is where you can get litigious. They were called Massive Black. Do you remember them?
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, Concept.org, I think it was. I think they're gone. I won this big tablet for a Frankenstein artwork I did in a subscription to Imagine FX magazine. We had loads of goodies from those guys. But I remember the disconnect. There's the screen, and
Hmm.
here's where I'm drawing. And I remember at the time going, I can't do this. And then
Yeah.
15 minutes later, I forgot that I was doing it.
Yeah.
So, you take that little leap of faith, and it's
Yeah.
fantastic. I thought I was a waste of time. But I'm the same as you. I find drawing directly on the screen quite a cumbersome thing for some reason. I don't know why. It seems to be
Yeah.
a
It
little
feels weird.
distance. Yeah,
Yeah.
there, you find there's a distance between the stylus and the image. Is that maybe what it is?
I think that whatever I've used as far as the Cintiqs feel awkward in a way physically, maybe that I'm not used to, where something on a tabletop still feels like it could be a sketchbook, but there's an
Yeah,
awkwardness to the position, maybe the height of a
yeah.
Cintiq, or I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just lazy and don't want to lift my arm. It could always just be that too. Who knows?
You do you ever use iPad like Procreate?
I don't like that either.
Oh,
I
what?
really, yeah, I don't know why. I think
Yeah,
I don't know. I probably just need to use it more. But
yeah.
yeah, it's just been tablet and sketchbook, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. Rachel with the hard questions. She doesn't hold back.
Yeah, yeah. I'm popping
Yeah.
in.
We'll
What
get in.
was it that made you want to get into education originally?
Why when I went to on my undergrad, my last, I think in my junior year, I had an opportunity to do a little bit of work in entertainment illustration. And then the same year, I got an offer to start teaching. And I was able to contrast those really early. And I really disliked working for another person in an entertainment context. I have nothing against it. I think the work that's produced is gorgeous and I find it inspiring and I love it. But my personality, I wanted autonomy. From early on, I wanted to be able to do what I wanted and pursue academically what interests me. And I felt invigorated being in a classroom and having the opportunity to share and learn from other people early on, and that just snowballed for me. So I think I've been in school teaching in university and enrolled myself since 1999
Huh.
Wow.
with
Okay.
with very little break, and
Yeah,
it was just what I loved. And that probably wouldn't work for a lot of people, but I think that early exposure was what kind of let me know that's where I wanted to go.
yeah. I can really I definitely would like rather like working on what I want to work on, not what
Mhm.
other people want me to do. All the critiquing and stuff and nitpicking and it's stuff drives me
Right.
crazy.
And on that point, Rachel has a Patreon. Just subscribe below. Just quickly in there.
There you
There's no
go.
ads. There's no
All
ads on this
right.
channel. There's just that organic ad.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to ask there actually, Michael, because I've got great teachers that like for instance, I think what you just said there, being an eternal student, is so important that you'll get a mindset that says, I've done my 3 years in university and now I'm going to be a professional artist, and that's fine, but then never learn anything again. And yet you've got this eternal, seeking wisdom on all the time. And I was well in my 30s before I discovered Steve Houston and Glenn Villepeu and all those great, really are the new masters.
Yeah.
And my skills skyrocketed, even though I
Mhm.
had been a professional artist, had made a decent living for all those years, and it reinvigorated my love of art again. And I
Right.
didn't see that coming. It was the unknown. I did
Hmm.
not see that coming. And so I think that if we embrace the fact that we're always learning something, or we
Hmm.
should be, then we're going to always be better all the time. And don't shut it Dunning-Kruger wise down and say, I can always learn from someone else. Someone said something actually really insightful. You can learn something from anyone, regardless of their social strata or whether their intellectual capacity. You can learn something from someone that you don't know. And if you know the movie Midnight Cowboy, he goes to New York and he meets this real degenerate called Ratso Rico, and he can't survive without this guy. And this guy is the lowest form of human life, and
Yeah.
yet he needs him because he knows the streets. He knows how to
Yeah.
get into disused buildings and stuff. So I think if we keep our mind open, and for everyone that's watching this, that every single person in this chat, in this screen, can teach us something all the time. So I would like to ask you, Michael, who were your influential teachers, and what did you learn from them?
Well, you mentioned a couple. I was really fortunate that when I was in Southern California that there was a school named Associates in Art that I started to go to that was, this is probably a couple years after high school. And in that school was, Mark Westermo, Glenn
Oh,
Vilppu, John Watkiss, who was probably my most influential teacher. But everybody kind of was commingling in that school at that time. And so you could walk down, it was small, there was maybe 4 to 6 classrooms, but I could see the Light and Tone school that then became the Watts Atelier, or
oh,
I could
really?
see John Watkiss drawing in a room and learn about, insane anatomical invention, or Gregory Weir Catan, and or Mike Butkiss, or any number of these guys that were all teaching in the same place, really made for a super boost, to an early understanding of drawing. But I had such a great exposure early on in drawing. It was definitely Glenn Vilppu and John Watkiss. In painting, it would have been Stephen Douglas, and cultural criticism, maybe Norman Klein. So it was just a great. I was really fortunate to be in a great area and have so many stellar minds around me, which was probably the reason when I graduated, I still didn't feel ready, because I was seeing all of these guys that were
Ah,
just monsters. And
yeah,
so thought to myself, geez, I still need all this time to get, to go on and continue schooling and stuff.
that's a great point. When you see that, like you mentioned, the Watts Atelier there, I didn't know that. I didn't know that those giants of where we are today were in one spot at one point. Of course, they're going to be. Are they going to orbit
I think
around
it's
each
even,
other?
yeah, even more so that that model of kind of a commuter school. It then became something else after that. It became like the Art Academy of LA, and then it became Concept Art School, which Kevin Chen School. Kevin Chen was Mark Westermo's student, and now it's kind of that same model of school has gone online now and is any number like Brainstorm that I will do classes for. So I think it's the history of that is kind of an interesting progression, at least in the Southern California schools of drawing.
It really is, isn't it? And when you talk about it was the beginning of the Watts Atelier, was it the father or was it Jeff? Which Watts was in that school?
Well, it was my understanding that Jeff was a student of Mark Westermo, who was
Oh,
the founder and owner of that school, and his Riley approach to
yeah.
drawing, the tonal mapping, and Westermo did a lot of movie posters and the tonal mapping studies. That was always my assumption that that's where it came from, but I could be mistaken.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fascinated by California because of that hub. I really am. I went there just the start of this year and went down to see Jeff Watson, went down to see Stan Prokopенko and hung out with
Mhm.
those guys. It was just
Yeah.
if only I had that. And we all say it. So everyone here's watching this going, maybe in India or China going, oh, if only we had that. But
Hmm.
we kind of have it. You can go on and
Yeah.
watch Jeff Watts draw if you feel you want to be
Right.
deflated. If you want to feel a bit deflated, go and watch Jeff Watts draw
Yeah. a hundred
and
percent.
go like this, but at the same
Yeah.
time be inspired by it because it's astonishing.
Yeah.
I believe if you took Jeff Watts back to the time of Michelangelo and he was drawing like that, Michelangelo would be deflated. And I know that's a big call, but honestly, that kind of skill level is just it's incredible. It's really incredible. And it was Steve
Yes.
Huston that told me that. Steve Huston said he went around the back of a Michelangelo statue and there was a drawing there by Michelangelo. And he says it looked like a 12-year-old did it. So they were Michelangelo in particular was basically our Marlon Brando. He was saying, here's how we work this up. He learned how to learn. Here's how we do this, how we learn to draw. And so he was the beginning of it. We draw with a method, and then we fly off of that method. We don't get stuck in it. And
Yeah.
that get subverted along the way into very rigid academic stuff that Michelangelo would probably struggle with. I think this is just me flying off the seat of my pants, but that's what I believe. And
Yeah.
it was just astonishing to meet those guys. But I would have loved to have gone and learned from those guys. I'll tell you this, Michael. I don't want to steal the show, but I went to see meet, and it was because of Christian. It sounded
Hmm.
like a blame. It sounded like blame there, didn't it? Christian introduced me to Jeff Watts, but he wasn't there when I turned up at the Watts studio. And
Oh
Jeff was in
no.
the car, and Jeff was getting out of his car in the car park. And I was hoping to sneak in the back of the room and draw. And Jeff said hello. And I says, hi. I said, I says, it's really nice to meet you. And he says, oh, great, Pat. I said, you know me? He says, like a child, you know me, I said, he says, yeah, of course I do. Come on in. He says, you're going to draw? And I just went, because I was hoping to hide and just draw in the background and then sneak
Yeah.
out. I didn't want to sit beside Jeff and draw, but it was wonderful,
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think there's a lesson there as well, is just be fearless. There's
Yeah.
nobody in the art world, people are pretty nice. Jeff isn't going to turn around and go, I thought you were a good artist. That's a load of rubbish. That's not going to happen, So you put yourself out there is my thought.
Yeah.
What do you think, Michael, on the idea of people maybe thinking that they never will? I went so dark there all of a sudden. What do you think, Mike? People that think they can never do this. What do you think? Do you think what advice would you give to those people?
Oh, I think anybody could do it. So that's I think the thing I usually talk about on the first day of a lot of my classes is just that I think that I don't believe in. I mean, I know there are some indications and predispositions towards certain skill sets, but I like to take a more democratic approach to skill and art and see it as a trade. Probably because of my background, and that I worked construction quite a bit to put myself through school, that I'm just used to thinking of art as a trade, which it was historically, and that it's a language, and that you can have a discomfort with learning a language, and it can take some time, but there's certainly there's no reason that it couldn't be done by anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I have a much more democratic approach to art skill building than something that I don't like as much, which is the idea that some of us are just inherently skilled, and then the rest of you are out of luck.
And that stuff drives me crazy. Like one of the things I liked a lot about watching Jeff Watts while he's like talking about all this crazy stuff while he's drawing these crazy drawings is he says when you get this good. It's not if. But he's like, when you get this good, you'll be able to do this, that, and he says stuff like that. Like it's just expected. If you do the practice, you get the skill.
Yeah.
And then you add yourself to that, and then that's where like the style, I guess, comes from, the taste. But yeah, the skill set is just like anything else, weightlifting or a trade. You just go to school, you get your education, and you learn.
Yeah. Well said there, Rich. Yeah, I agree too. We all agree on that. And I would say, Michael, isn't it strange that I was talking to Steve Houston and we both worked construction, and now here we are again. So everybody's, it's not this glamorous lifestyle where you go, oh, I've finished university, I shall now travel around Rome.
No.
And what construction did you do, Michael? Were you?
I was steam fitting pneumatic tubes. So have you ever been in I mean, it's gone now because it's old technology, but it's still in hospitals where there's 4 to 6 inch galvanized steel pipes that they send canisters through and it's powered by air pressure, pneumatic. Yeah, and so it's like they'll send blood samples to a different part of the hospital. You'd see it there because anything else could be faxed or emailed, but it used to be in grocery stores, and they would send money to the back, from the front through that. But I would haul those in the ceilings of hospitals and put them up, and it was tough. It was tough.
That sounds like a lot of cut fingers and busted knuckles to me.
Yeah.
Anytime you're working with that, and would you believe it, Michael? It still exists. If you go to London, I'm sure maybe you've been to London. Would you have been to London, Michael? I don't know much about your.
I've been to London once. Yeah. Once or twice actually.
Yeah. There's a bookshop on Charing Cross Road, I think. It's called Foyles Bookshops. Apparently the biggest bookshop in the world. And they still use it. They still
That's awesome.
And it's wonderful to watch. People go there for that. They go, poof, there goes your money. Poof.
That's awesome. Yeah, my dad would be thrilled to hear that.
I love it. It still exists in Foyles Bookshop, London. Go there just for the fun of that.
Nice.
Because I remember his question.
Oh, Rachel, go ahead.
It was just kind of relevant. Someone asked, does talent matter in pursuing art?
Oh.
So that's like kind of what we were just talking about.
I mean, I don't know, but my experience in seeing students in their progression is the ones that I see that come in with what you would consider a lot of talent, uh, don't seem to stick with it. You know, they
Mm,
could come in with a lot of, maybe it comes a little easier to them. Maybe their work already looks a little bit better. And I've always noticed that it's the students that it didn't come easier to, um, that always end up, I check in 5 years later or working somewhere, and I don't hear so much from the others. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have an answer, but that's my experience, as I tend to see the reverse actually.
That's something I've heard before too that doesn't make sense to me, but I've heard it like from multiple people saying that talent actually makes it more difficult for some
yeah.
because you sit back and you think you're good and then you just never get better. Like you don't
Yeah,
humble yourself. So
right.
I think the humility needs to be there. I think interest probably matters more than talent does
Mm,
to stay interested in it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
yeah.
agree. I see the same thing as well, Michael. I see exactly the
mm.
same thing. You know,
Interesting.
they say there's only five personalities. That's not true, but there's five
Mm,
types. There's no doubt about it. You know, the little girl that comes in and she's as shy as a mouse and she'll go to the bottom left of the room, you know. And then you have
yeah,
the bombastic guy comes in. I'm not going to see him for another 6 weeks because he'll only turn up when he feels like it. So you get
yeah,
these guys all the time. But
right.
that guy, the one that comes in with the talent, I find the same thing.
Mm,
It just flatlines all the way through. And
yeah,
I'd forgotten he was even in my class. He came in and he once, and I thought, it's that guy again. And by that time, the little mouse in the back of the room has actually got more information than him in here
hmm,
because she's been
hmm,
listening to you every second. And she's growing and she's going to keep exponentially growing better than him. And he is
right.
going to flatline forever. And he said to
Yeah.
me, I'd like to come and shadow you in your studio, like it was a gift. I said, shadow me? I haven't seen your shadow in this class for about 6 months. You know, so
Right.
it comes with great arrogance too. This
Yeah.
great talent comes with great arrogance sometimes. But it wasn't even that great a talent, you know.
Yeah.
I feel bad if he's watching this because you know what, you grow out of it, you know, you grow
Yeah.
out of it, and
Oh
he's
yeah.
probably a really nice guy now. But at the time, I just couldn't believe he had the cheek. But what he had though, he had agency.
Yeah.
He definitely had a superpower. He really believed in himself. And if the little mouse girl could take some of that, and if
Hmm.
he could give some of that back to her, they could be strong together. And once again, that's what this is. We can all be
Yeah.
strong together by learning from each other. It's an
Yeah.
amazing world once you get artists sticking together like this. They'll all come into your class and they won't talk, and then by the end you can't shut them up because basically artists are quite insular and they're
Yeah.
quite, it makes you shy, you know.
Hmm.
I think it was you, Mike. That was a really fascinating conversation you had with Christian in that van, and people got a bit depressed. They're going, "This is too much reality," but I enjoyed every minute of it. I thought it was fantastic, and you know,
Come listen to me. You'll learn figure drawing and I'll depress you.
it was brilliant. I really loved it, and that's what this is about too. It's not about how do you learn to draw. That's
Right.
that's that's happening in the background. We've already got
Yeah.
that going on. But that was amazing conversation. If you haven't seen that, check out Christian's sketchy van podcast,
Yeah.
and what's that one with Michael and Christian? It's really it's quite funny. You know,
Yeah.
I always thought dark humor was funny, and sort of had that feel to it all the way through. You guys are going to lighten up at any point. No, does God really exist? You know,
Well, I don't have any ability to make small talk and to keep things surface. It's just never, it's hard. So I think Christian keyed into that really
he
quickly
never
and then
stopped.
just went for it.
The two of you together. I thought I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
interview that. I'm not interview. I'm going to talk with this man, have a chat with this man. And by
Yeah.
the end of it, you were laughing. I thought you could have started with that, Christian. But Christian, as he's very existential, and he's all, you know, he's read all those books about
Yeah.
nihilism and
It
stuff.
was fun. It was fun.
It was fun. I was
Yeah.
laughing the whole time. I
Yeah.
thought, oh, do these guys know how to party or what? Go and
I
watch
think you
it,
might
guys.
be the only person that watched that and had that thought.
I was loving it. I loved every moment of it. It was funny. It's not every moment, you know, there's sad stuff in there. But
Yeah.
you know, it was fun for me to see. I think what it is in reality is we get a lot of people come on and they're all up, up, up. You know, the second I turn on a podcast and someone's doing that, you know, almost a threatening idea of how to be successful. Hey, you gotta quit your 9 to 5. That's for losers. You know?
Yeah.
What? Someone promises you money by the end of the week and they actually come through with it? That's a scam. You know, what is it? How is that possible? So the minute I just turn it off because it's not reality. It's just another Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that was what was refreshing about that podcast. Is here's the reality. We're ordinary people. Life's tough. It's still fun. What a great gift. What a great gift we've had to be this trillion to one idea of being alive. You could win the lottery 20 times before you could be alive. And here we are. Here we are, the lottery winners. That's a great gift to begin with. That's amazing. And if we
to piggyback on that, I think that I feel super fortunate for everything in my life, everything that's happened, everything I've done, everything I've gotten to do. But for me, I've always enjoyed thinking deeply about things, how things work, what things mean. But that, to me, doesn't mean that it's pessimistic. It means that I feel like I'm appreciating them even more, or I have a rich connection to subject matter or things that I think about. But I think sometimes that can feel or come across like it's negative or caustic or pessimistic. But I truly don't feel that way. That's not how I experience it. I mean, I've dedicated my entire life to studying art and different kinds. So, to me, it's not a chore. It's a love. And it's something I've loved so much that what I said at the beginning, that it's been hard to find balance. It's been hard to not do it, and keep other aspects of life, on even keel, so to speak. So I totally get what you're saying and I relate to it. And I'm always envious of people that are more extroverted, optimistic, just because those qualities are so cool because they're not ones that come to me easily. But I'm always looking to learn and to improve and kind of explore being different ways also.
Yeah, that's great, Michael. And it's going back on that as well. I think it's really important for everyone that's going through the same journey that we're having here, is that the end goal isn't really that important. If your family, I think it was Steven Silver said that you watch these Oscar winners accept the award and they're crying their eyes out. And I used to really admire that. I go, imagine what it's like to win an Oscar. It must be the greatest thing. And then he said, how many people did they hurt? How many family members were destroyed by their lack of being there and not being so focused on this little statue? And I thought, wow, that is true. It's just a little statue. That's all it is. And so I'm like, we go back to that at the end of it all, too hard on yourself. At the end of it all, I don't think the end's the important part, winning the statue. It's the mid. Here's an irony. It's the mid journey. Mm-hmm. Now that's a hot potato we weren't going to talk about. But that's a thing about mid journey. There's no mid journey. You put your prompt in, you get an artwork out the other end, nothing in the middle. There's been no mid journey. And so, but for me, the actual, because I'm admiring your drawing right now and just watching the rhythm of that Latissimus coming around and that twist.
Can I ask an anatomy question real quick?
Yes. Is that okay?
If it's to Patrick, yes.
Well, the little muscle you drew on the inside of both of the arms, what is that?
Are you talking about this one?
Yes. What is that?
Well, I have an idea what that is, but I will leave that with Michael.
It's CB, coracoid brachialis.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay,
that's what I thought. There you go. Right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. See, I knew that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Michael, it might seem like a bit of wordplay there, but Rachel does know the coracoid brachialis because it's one of my favorite muscles.
I didn't know it went that far down the arm. Like I didn't know. Yeah, I thought it was like higher up for some reason. I don't know.
It's a big old player. Well, muscles don't really stretch; they just become long at their own length. But yeah, the coracoid brachialis is really long. It comes all the way up to this little process here. But yeah, look at that as well, Michael. How much joy we're getting out of one line that represents muscle. And if you have that joy all the way through, I often say every line should be a thought. If you've got that all the time, you're always in the mid journey. You're always engaged in the drawing all the time. And it's always wonderful because you're not thinking about the end game at all. end game doesn't really matter, and for me anyway. And at the end of the day, you end up with a good end game because you've
Yeah,
not been thinking about it. So
yeah,
stultifying, isn't it? Thinking this has to be the best artwork ever. You may as well forget about it there, right there and then. But I
yeah. I
keep,
think that's hard. That's a hard frame to slog under. Yeah, I like what you said more, where I think it's developing a language. So yeah, line, shape, volume would all be different letters, and how they're configured or rearranged would be communicate a different content or concept. But more and more for me, it's the what and drawings like these always appeal to me because they're the closest to my thinking. Right? They are structured like thoughts, or they're thoughts in progress, or it's the figure becoming abstract as a condition of its being made real, that is always the most kind of interesting to me for showing anatomy or diagrams or things like this.
Yeah,
hmm,
that's
I
something I really like about your anatomy drawings, is how thoughtful they are. Like it's very easy to read and they look very nice. Like this is like one of the best books you can get if you're trying to learn how to draw the human figure. I
Thanks.
reference it all the time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. If
and
you
they're
want,
almost
And
all of my drawings are from discussions. So they're all made with students or in the course of lecturing. And I kind of like that. I mean, I know that they're that in progress state, or that, that kind of bringing the classroom to the book, or to,
yeah.
YouTube, or the experience of the classroom is kind of what I always liked about it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people who like to draw probably like this. But you open a book and start looking at the pictures, and so you just look at the pictures. You can see that it's like a conversation. You're figuring it out, and like how things move, like all the stuff with the arrows going around, how things twist
Yeah,
around and fit into stuff.
mm,
I really like that. It helps me out so much.
thanks.
yeah.
I'm glad.
What are like some of your favorite art books that you reference?
Oh my God, there's so many. Um, and they wouldn't be just how to, drawing books, but I have my bookcase runs the gamut from art history uh, to monographs on fine artists I love, to arts and culture, arts and politics. But if it's drawing, anatomy, I really like the anatomy for sculptors. I think they really ran with the
Yeah.
infographics, and I find that to be something that is like pushing accessibility. That's always something that's really important to me, is how accessible an idea is to people. I think that book is really or their design and their understanding is really great for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one too. And then
I
I wrote
agree.
this question down before the podcast. I had another question. What was your favorite non-art book, or some of your favorite
Ooh.
non-art books that you would
Um,
recommend?
oh, so my work in art history is on kitsch in politics. So I'm fascinated by subjects of taste. So
Okay.
ideas of, kind of like Patrick was talking about earlier, class, how class appeals to different, or how art appeals to different classes was kitsch, for a very long time. I think it's kind of dissolved into a big mush of the same kind of thing now, but earlier 1940s and 50s, kitsch was kind of a gatekeeper word for people in the know and people out of the know. So, I think my library is mostly books on kitsch and taste.
Okay. That's a word I just learned today, by
Yeah,
the
we
way.
were looking through your Instagram page and we noticed you had the hashtag dictator kitsch.
Yeah.
I have a book
Yeah.
here. I have a book here just called Kitsch, and I
Yeah.
think it's by Odd Nordum. Yeah, it's by Odd
Yeah.
Nordum. Yeah, have you
Odd
got that one?
Nerdrum wrote a book on kitsch. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is a book validating the concept for his work, which is, it's a great book and a really interesting defense of realism, in his style at the time he was making it. But
yeah.
it's a fascinating topic. My favorite is probably Ruth Holiday and Tracy Potts wrote a book on kitchen taste. That's
Mhm.
it's a little bit of an uphill read, but it's nonetheless something that's kind of fascinated me, and really was influential on some of my work in that area.
Yeah. And just for the audience, we'll just clarify that. I mean, you might clarify my clarification as well, Michael, because you're more educated on that subject. But kitsch for me has always been a derogatory term for popular art. You know, if it's too popular, it becomes kitsch. It becomes wallpaper and chocolate box art, like Bouguereau, for instance, at one point would be considered kitsch because the little person with a bubble became blowing bubbles. One of his most popular artworks, I think it was Bouguereau, became a soap ad for Pear soap. I think it's Bouguereau. But because it became so popular, it was no longer considered fine art because it was now kitsch because of its popularity. Everyone liked it. Dare we even say the lower classes liked it? And that's the end of your appeal to the higher minds. I think. Would that be a correct description?
That's the tension that always interested me, was that it appeals to the largest majority of people, or the largest population. But because of that fact, it's not worth looking at. So how do you not want your message to reach the largest population? So instead, in contrast to kitsch, is the avant-garde, which is, or was, where, you know, work should be made in advance of what culture is ready to accept, and then they catch up to it. So you can have the rear guard, which is kitsch, and the avant-garde, which is kind of the new ideas. But yeah, it's a weird tension that something that reaches so many people is bad for them.
Yeah.
But, you know, I could, you know, because of your work and knowing Boris Vallejo, a large part of my dissertation was based on Rowena Morrell's work.
I know.
I know. So that was a big part of kind of what got me interested in this subject and some of the writing that I did, or it's basically one whole chapter of my dissertation.
And she would have been considered kitsch, I think, because I don't know if you know this part, Michael, you might do, since you've been looking into it. But when they broke into Saddam Hussein's palace,
that's what it's on.
Yeah.
So what it's on is why it's considered kitsch, right? Because it's used in the context of where it's found in articles. It's used as her work in his home is used as an argument for him having WMDs somewhere.
What?
And that's totally ludicrous, right? So because well, but see, I think kitsch is always, it's not a thing. It's not an object. It's not pink. It's not a series of flamingos. It's a judgment, and a judgment is individual, and that everybody has a different taste. So it's made, you know, it's arbitrary, right? It's dependent on the person and the taste and their background. But yeah, that finding or that example is super interesting to me.
Yeah, me too. That someone can make an objective decision on a subjective idea, which is art, and say this is bad and this is good. Who are these people? Do they even paint? Do you know
it's Jonathan Jones from The Guardian, I think, was the one that wrote that article.
All right, The Guardian. There you go. Yeah, you get these well-heeled folks, and it sounds like inverted snobbery. It's not at all, but you do get these well-heeled folks, and I think somewhere, if we put them in a psychiatrist's couch, they go, I just wanted to be an artist too and couldn't be. You know, it could be that. And then they start to rubbish other artists. For me, if someone likes art, it's art. It's as simple as that in my books anyway. And sure, I'll look at art sometimes and go, get me out of here. You know, especially if someone says, what do you think of this piece? Because when someone says that in a gallery, for instance, I don't want to say anything because the artist is usually in earshot because they're standing by their artworks, aren't they? They're waiting for those comments. But yeah, we've all got taste, and whatever that taste is our taste, and we can own that, I think, anyway. But yeah, so Michael, we're coming near the end. So if you've got any thought, or if there's any questions, first of all, Rachel, Melanie, and any thoughts you have on that subject there, Michael, as well, on taste. Watch it now, it's a minefield.
Yeah.
I know.
Have we even discussed AI?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about AI. Like,
stop it, Rachel.
Oh, did I?
No, we were told about this earlier. There you go, Michael. We're really going down the rabbit hole. There's the real question. Rachel, launch away.
Well, not about like the ethics. It's all that aside. What would you say to like students who are looking at what's coming and they're worried about like the future of having a job in art, knowing that AI is going to take a lot of jobs that they might have had otherwise. Like one of the things I've thought about is like in the future, do you think skill will still matter? Or because if you can just get a robot to do that part, maybe skill matters less in the future. I'm not sure.
I wish I knew what to say. You know,
Okay.
I really do wish I knew. And I think to pontificate and say some things here would probably just really date me, you know, or not age well. So I don't know. You know, I really don't know.
Yeah.
And I would just sympathize. Like I think those concerns are valid, and I think that it makes sense. But you know, I don't think AI is going to make art obsolete. And I think it will change things. I think people should take it seriously. But I think that there's nothing wrong with embracing it. I mean, I think you have to, in some aspect, you have to be open to its inevitability. So I feel myself kind of in between the two worlds. You know, I'm a little
Yeah.
older and I'm not thrilled about it, let's just be honest, but I recognize the inevitability of it too. Like I read articles every day of this advancement, Google getting better than the open AI, and it's all a little terrifying to be completely honest, right?
Yeah.
It's nerve-wracking. And so yeah, there's uncertainty. And I think that the thing you can do that you have control over is the development of your own skill and capabilities and your own ideas. And if you put your emphasis there, that's the best that you can do. And don't worry about, you know, don't shut it out. I don't think that's a unless you're like anticipating AI taking over and a return to the craft economy, and you know, you're just going to wait until that happens, which doesn't seem like a great idea, but it might happen. I just don't know. And as a teacher, I've learned that it's not bad to say I don't know sometimes.
That's a good answer.
It's the best thing. I wish we all could say, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's this binary idea that you're right and wrong. It's just ridiculous. It's not a learning idea. I was just thinking there, Michael, when you were talking about, you know, this is, oh, look at that. What?
What's that? What do you do?
I don't know.
It's
You do
AI.
things and it
Wait,
pops
did
up.
AI do that? It
AI,
knows.
exactly, AI did that. But you know, we're thinking about, oh, this is unprecedented. But if you go back to the times of the Greek philosophers, they used to tell stories, and then someone developed writing, and everyone went, well, that's awful. Now, oh, the lazy people are going to write it down so they can't remember how to tell stories. That was once a thing. So writing was the original AI. Where you go, oh, there's my thoughts. And you show them to someone on a piece of paper was considered ridiculous and stupid because now you're just lazy. You don't want to hold it in here. So it's gonna, you know, they often say the genie's out of the box. It's not, you know, we're gonna have to deal with it. It's as simple as that. We gotta get our big boy pants on and stop crying tears. Was I too tough there? That was like my dad's advice. Stop crying. Dry your
I feel
eyes.
like I should have opened.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have opened with a disclaimer that's just like I draw balls and cylinders, and I'm unqualified to answer most things. So please take everything I've said with a grain of salt.
Like you're very good at what you do.
Yeah. Well, I think that. Go on, Rachel.
Well, like one of the other like analogies I thought of recently kind of is like when the GPSs started coming out and they weren't that great, and now no one knows how to read a map. They just type it on their phone, go wherever. You probably just barely even know where the heck you're going half the time. I kind of feel like that could be like a danger with AI in the future. If people rely on it too much, you're gonna kind of like what's the word, like when your muscles like deteriorate.
Atrophy.
Yeah, like atrophy, like parts of like things that you should have been learning, and then relying on the technology too much. And I also think like those people who rely on that too much, they're gonna start looking a lot the same. Yes. So I think if you want to stand out, maybe that'll be more important in the future, like focusing on the artist. Something I like about this podcast.
Yeah.
Focusing. Yeah.
Sorry, it all looks the same to me, except for the rare few that already have skills before AI, and you can tell a big difference. There's someone I sort of see on Instagram. I think he's called Phantom Painting or something like that, and they really are astonishingly different. And so obviously you take it, put it in the hands of someone like Craig Mullins, and you're going to get something astonishing. So it's always
Yeah.
that. I think in the middle, the mid journey part is what you've got to focus on, which is what we do. What we draw.
Yeah,
I
it is
think
ironic they call it that. When you
it is
skip
really
all
funny,
those
isn't it?
steps, you skip it so much with that.
I wonder if it's an in joke. I wonder if they all sat around and said, "Let's call it this," and everybody
Yeah.
burst out laughing. All the guys in their suits all burst out laughing. I bet
Yeah.
it did. It's just too ironic not to be true. Now, because we're winding up, I was going to say two things. Are there any more questions? And then we'll ask.
Do you want to ask one of yours? Not
So-
even quiet.
So I would
Well-
say, go ahead, Melanie. Did you have something?
I was gonna ask, which do you think is more important to learn or have a good understanding of when you're first starting out learning as an artist? Would you say it's gesture or structure?
Oh, the big hitters.
Oh, well, I think you can't learn one or the other in isolation. I think that they have to be learned simultaneously because one informs the other and vice versa. So I think they have to be integrated. What's needed more is maybe an integral picture of a workflow or how you're dealing with the two of them. Because anything that I do in gesture is really a setup for how I see the finish. It's a blueprint. So, structure would still be something that would exist on top. And then if you go one step further, I don't think they're different at all in the sense that they're all lines. So I think the biggest hurdle for me as a younger student and a lot of the students that I work with is not thinking of your drawing as a thing. It's not a figure. It's not a car. It's a drawing, right? So like there is that hurdle where for me, the biggest one was not light and shadowing the figure, copying in the outside lines as if I could contain a shape and replicate what's in front of me as a real thing on the paper. We're always dealing with the abstract components of drawing or art. We deal in line, shape, volume, perspective. And I think if you can see them both as a result of that, then you're learning one thing and becoming competent in a skill set that is based on your foundational elements like straight, curve, S curve, cylinder, box, sphere, and then how you mold. Like Da Vinci talked always about molding as if he was sculpting with line and in 2D. That is more important to me. Thinking about the elements and the components of drawing as an abstract system that can give rise to gesture or structure allows you to get to kind of the heart or the root of it. And then you're not preoccupied with how one thing might be different from another. So that's my non-answer to your
No, that
very
was a
good, very good question.
No, that was a good answer. Thank
I
you.
like that.
That big answer that was a non-answer. No, that was a big question as well. Everything's a big question in art, isn't it? It's such a insidious world that you can ask the simplest of questions, and then all of a sudden, somebody throws in a hot potato like AI.
It's only when you're talking to me and my brain only spits it back out as something that's very convoluted.
But it is true, though, isn't it? My God. That's one of the hardest things about teaching art. It's because of the subjectivity of it. That
Yeah.
there really isn't. There's not an answer you can give without really exploring a lot of different avenues because everyone's so different. I mean, they really put us in a boiler room when they said go and teach art. What?
Yeah.
Who? What?
Yeah.
What? Because it's not like anything else. It's not like math. Like a math teacher will grade papers with a template. They'll just put a template down and they'll dot it like that because there's only one objective answer to 2 and 2.
Right.
But with us, it's a whole hot potato. Now, at the end, I always ask Michael, because this is for an audience of like-minded artists, we're all where we are in our career, or not even career, let's just call it in our art life. What would you say to your younger self to comfort them maybe in going forward? What would you say to someone, the young Michael? You've walked in and Michael's sitting there and he's full of doubt. What would you say to him?
You have to enjoy it more. Right? You have to enjoy the ride, and not worry, not stress about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that simple. I think I would have felt much better throughout the whole journey if I had a better attitude,
Yeah. That's
right?
great.
But toward myself, right? So the inner critic or the whatever part of the ego that is, can be that militant and rigid, needed to soften, or wish I could have softened that earlier. And I try to convey that to just about every class now,
Yeah.
right? And it's in my way of critique, like, that students tend to focus only on the things they're doing bad, but never appreciate little wins along the way. So even something as simple as that could maybe instill a different attitude or relationship to your work.
Yeah, I absolutely, totally agree. And isn't it funny that that's what we have now? We have, like, shall I use the term like the School of Hard Knocks? No, it's too well worn. But we do get knocked around a lot, don't we, on the way up? And when you look back, yeah, the knocks were tough and everything. But I had the same thing. I said to myself, go back in time and say, yeah, you're going to get knocked around a bit. It's not that bad. You'll be fine. Illness aside, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You've got art. You've got art in your life. And how many people don't have that? Most people. And they find it later in life. We actually have the luxury of art throughout our lives. We don't have to wait until the end. We're enjoying that mid journey all the way through. That's my 10 cents. But it's funny that we both came to the same conclusion. Don't be so hard on yourself. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Illness aside, it'll be fine. Well, it's been marvelous, Michael. And if there's any last questions, please ask them. I know that Melanie looks like she has a question in her head there. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading that mind. I don't know. Are we any?
No, I'm just very thankful to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, I am too. Thank you so much it's an honor to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
likewise.
I hear a lot of gratitude coming from you, and it's very contagious.
Oh, nice. Rachel. It is
Yeah.
contagious. All right. Well, what I do, if you want to just hang around for a couple of more minutes, Michael, we'll say goodbye to everyone, and I'll close the live stream, and then we'll just for a second or two. Yeah. So it's a goodbye from me and Sláinte. I'm from Ireland, so that's how we say not so much goodbye, but good cheer. So Sláinte from me, the Virginians, whatever you're saying.
Well, and then you just walk out the door.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. What is it? Is it way up?
But well, I don't even know. We just
it's kind of a sound.
like
It's
a-
kind of a
like a well, and then a dot, and then
Yeah.
you slowly walk out the
Oh,
door.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's right. Well, it's to be continued. It's to be
Yeah,
continued. It's not a
Yeah.
goodbye. That's great. Michael, have you got a goodbye from your part of the world?
I avoid the 405. I don't know.
What's that?
The freeway?
What is it?
The freeway in LA that's always really busy, just to
right,
loop it back to the
of course.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. No customary Southern California greeting other than that.
What about that freeway traffic? All right, that's brilliant.